Welcome to the OpenCage geocoding API tutorial. In this video, we're going to look at what is geocoding and what it's not, the two main types of geocoding, reverse and forward geocoding, and the differences between the two of them. We'll take a hands-on look at how to use the OpenCage API for geocoding with real code examples. We will use the command line interface tool in this tutorial. However, OpenCage supports many languages, including JavaScript, PHP, and Ruby, so you're free to use the language of your choice. We'll also briefly look at processing multiple places and large datasets. Finally, we'll cover some best practices to help you get the most out of the OpenCage API. Let's begin by defining geocoding. So what is geocoding? Geocoding is the process of converting geographic coordinates, latitude and longitude, into a geographic reference, such as an address, place name, or locality, or vice versa. For example, here we have a pair of coordinates that represent a location in Germany. We can use geocoding when we want to know the address corresponding to those coordinates. Conversely, geocoding can also help us convert an address into the corresponding latitude and longitude. There are two types of geocoding: reverse geocoding and forward geocoding. Reverse geocoding is when you convert GPS coordinates into place names. Forward geocoding is when you convert place names into machine-readable coordinates. Here we see an example for each type of geocoding. Now let's look at how you can use the OpenCage API for geocoding. The OpenCage website has comprehensive documentation about its API and various geocoding guides. I highly recommend you take a few minutes to read through the documentation, at least the basics of it. It has detailed information about the request format, parameters, and various other aspects of using the API. There are two required parameters when making any requests to the OpenCage API. The first one is your API key, denoted by the keyword key, and the other is a query string, denoted by Q. For reverse geocoding, Q will be the coordinates, the latitude and longitude. And for forward geocoding, Q will be the address or place name. As the first step to start using this API, you will need to sign up for your API key. Signing up for an account is straightforward. You can sign up for a free trial using your email or Google or GitHub account. I'm going to sign up using my email and password. After signing up, you need to click on your confirmation email to confirm your email address. Once you confirm your account, you will see an API key in your account dashboard. Now you can use this API key. Quick note on the OpenCage free trial limits. The free trial allows 2,500 requests per day while testing. But note, it is a free trial and not a free forever plan. Once you're registered and logged in, the API examples in the tutorials will include your API key, so you can easily copy and paste code snippets. We will use the command line interface tool in this tutorial, but as you can see here, OpenCage supports a huge number of languages and SDKs for each of them, so please feel free to use the language of your choice. There are also tutorials for different languages and frameworks. Here's the CLI tutorial. The OpenCage command line tool is designed for developers, data analysts, GIS professionals who need to process files from the command line. It's best suited for people already familiar with the command line and with the concepts of geocoding. The first step is to install the OpenCage CLI tool through the Python module. It's compatible with Python version 3. So first run pip install OpenCage. Once that's installed, we can run the CLI tool by running OpenCage. When using the OpenCage CLI, you'll need to provide the following required arguments: command, which can take two values, forward or reverse, your API key, the input file containing the addresses or coordinates depending on which way you're geocoding, and an output file where the results of the geocoding will be saved. You can get some help about the options available by running the command with the -h option. For example, if you run OpenCage reverse -h or OpenCage forward -h, you'll see all the options you can use. Okay, now let's look at a few real geocoding examples. Let's reverse geocode some coordinates to locations. Here we have a text file called coordinates.csv containing decimal coordinates in comma-separated latitude-longitude format. We can geocode these coordinates and save the output in a file called addresses.csv by calling OpenCage reverse, and we pass the API key and the input and output files. And you can see the output generated. Now let's see forward geocoding. We have a text file called addresses.csv containing places. We can forward geocode these addresses to latitude, longitude coordinates by running OpenCage forward, API key, and the input and output files. And once again, you can see the output here. If you try to write to an existing file, say by running this command again, you'll get an error. The output file already exists. You can add the overwrite option to your command to override that file. So let's rerun it with the override option, and now it overrides the existing file. The OpenCage API accepts many optional parameters. We can pass those to the CLI tool using the optional API params option. Let's look at an example where we set language and country code. So here we have an input file containing the following city names. We want to forward geocode them with the country code US and language French. So we run the command with the optional API params, and we set the country code to US and language to FR. So here we're using the 2-letter codes respectively. And as you can see in the formatted result, the output is in French for lat-long locations in the US. Please refer to the API documentation for a full list of optional parameters, example usage, and other details about them. If you make a request after exceeding your plan's request limit, you will see an error like this. You have used the request available on your plan. Please purchase more if you wish to continue. Another option is to limit the number of results returned for each request. You can use the limit option to do that. For example, here if we set the limit to 1, the output results file will contain only one pair of coordinates. You can use the headers option to treat the first row of your input file as headers. This addresses file has headers for city and country, so we can pass the headers option to use those. You can specify the columns containing the address or coordinates as a comma-separated list of integers with the input columns option. This is useful if you have the address or coordinates in an unexpected order. For example, here we have an addresses file that looks like this. We can use the input columns option to specify the order of the address columns. So here we'll use the headers option in combination with the input columns option and give it a value of 5, 4, 3, 2, and the script would then generate the correct address and geocode that. You can specify a comma-separated list of output columns with the add columns option. For example, let's say we are reverse geocoding some coordinates and we only want the formatted address, country, and postcode in the output. We can specify them like this. So we use the add columns option and pass it formatted, country, postcode. And you can see that in the output. If you want to test your command by only parsing the input file without actually making API calls or writing to the output file, you can use the dry run option. So here, we'll just pass the dry run option and it won't actually write to the output file. It'll simply read the input file and make sure that it's good. If you want a more detailed output during processing, you can use the verbose option. So here we're going to pass verbose, and you can see it shows much more detailed information during the geocoding process. The OpenCage website has a list of best practices. I recommend you read and follow these to get the best results out of the API. To speed up processing of large datasets, you can use multiple parallel workers with the workers option. The maximum value is 20. This option only works for paying customers, not free trial users. Here we have a file with 100 lat-long coordinates in Brazil. Let's use 4 workers to reverse geocode these coordinates to addresses. So we simply pass the -- workers option with the value of 4. Sometimes you may have the need to geocode a large dataset with more than 1 million records. You can refer to this step-by-step guide on geocoding large datasets of several million locations. If you have a big geocoding project coming up, OpenCage has a very comprehensive geocoding buyer's guide. It covers all the important aspects of making such a decision. That's the end of this tutorial. Good luck and happy geocoding.